Hello, I'm Christine Gillum, and I'm here today to share a lesson with you. This lesson is designed for ages kindergarten through second grade, but anyone can stay tuned in because this lesson is about communication, and we all need to be better communicators. For this lesson, you don't need anything right now except for your good listening ears, your good ideas, and your good questions. But later, you're going to need to have someone with you to have a conversation. It could be anyone at your house. So, we're ready to learn. Anybody can be a good communicator. What you have to do is learn how to share your ideas. You share your ideas and you listen to the ideas that other people have, and then you ask questions. And then when you answer each other and ask more questions, you get a great conversation. And that's what I want you to be able to do, is learn to have great communication with people. So I brought someone with me to help that happen. And this is my friend, Sunny. Hi, Sunny. Why don't you say hello, Sunny?
Hello, Sunny.
No, I mean say hello to our students.
Hello, students.
Well, today we're talking about communication, and I was just wondering if you had any ideas about that.
Oh yeah, I've got lots of ideas about communication.
Oh, really? Well, why don't you share one with us?
Well, you have to talk loud, and you have to talk clear, and you have to make yourself understood.
Oh, that's good to know. Well, I was just wondering if you like books.
Love books.
Well, why don't you tell me something about that?
Well, I like to read to myself.
You can read?
Well, that's right. Pigs can read.
Well, who taught you to read?
My mom taught me to read.
That's funny, because my mom taught me to read too. And then later, I learned to read by going to school. Well, I really appreciate you talking with us and having this conversation. Is there anything else you would like to say?
Well, sure. Are you going to read a book?
Of course I am.
Well, that's what I'm waiting for.
All right. Well, you just sit right over here, and we'll get to that part, okay? All right. Now, I have a book I do want to share with you. Now, you are listening for something in this book. You are listening for ideas to start a conversation with after this is over. And this book is Which Would You Rather Be by William Steig. Now, on the front of the book, you see a magic hat. You're going to have to keep watching that magic hat because what's coming out of it is very important. Which Would You Rather Be by William Steig. Which would you rather be? A stick or a stone? An elbow or a knee? A cat or a dog? A dog. Which would you rather be? A snake or a crocodile? A mouse or an elephant? A boy or a girl? Notice, they're both hockey players. See, they're thinking about that. Which would you rather be? Rain or snow? Thunder, kaboom! Or lightning? A grown-up or a kid? A kid. Now this is where you need to really listen closely. Here are lots of questions that would come up with some good ideas that you could ask to start a conversation with someone. Which would you rather be? A duck or a fox? Who could you ask that question? Which would you rather be? A flute or a tuba? A shirt or pants? Tall or short? Who do you know that you could ask, which would you rather be? Candy or cake? A cherry or a plum? A moose or a sun? Who could you ask? Would you rather be asleep or awake? Alone or together? With all of these things that came out of the rabbit's hat, would you rather be together? We've got to think about that. The rabbit puts everything back in his hat. So what are the questions that you heard in this book that you could use today to start a conversation? That's your assignment. Find several people and ask them questions and listen to their ideas, and then share your ideas and let them listen to you. So don't forget to have a good conversation with someone. You listen, you ask questions, and you share your own ideas. Well, that about wraps it up for today. Remember, I'm Christine Gillum. I had a wonderful time sharing with you today, and I can't wait to come back next week. Thank you very much.
Kindergarten is great at Kansas City Public Schools.
I know they have really good teachers. I know this is a great school.
They teach them stuff that I thought my kids would never be able to know at the age of 5.
Since deciding to send our kiddos to a neighborhood school, we've become even more of a part of our community.
Now is the time to enroll your future kindergartner for the new school year. Visit enrollkc.org today.
Hello, I'm Deanna Basilovac, World Languages Coordinator at Kansas City Public Schools. Thank you for joining me today. I'd like to talk to you about myself, give my background, talk about the languages that we offer in Kansas City Public Schools, and speak about the customs when introducing oneself in another country. Thank you for joining me. So I'm Deanna. and I'm originally from Kansas City. In fact, I have two grandparents that were from Kansas City, Kansas, and they were immigrants, and they didn't speak English, they spoke Polish. In fact, in their community, they had bakeries, newspapers, everything was in Polish at that time, and it's called Polish Hill in Kansas City, Kansas. And then my other grandparents were from the Missouri side, in Kansas City, Missouri. In fact, they lived on Kensington, and my mom went to East. So she is super excited that I'm here at Kansas City Public Schools. I've been very fortunate to live, work, and study in many countries around the world. In fact, I just moved back from Senegal, West Africa. Do you know your continents? I remember the song that my daughter's teacher taught them when they were in elementary school. Maybe it's something that you've heard before. Asia, Africa, North and South America, Europe, Australia, Antarctica, too. So how did you know your continents? Do you learn it through a song? Or did you go to another country on another continent? So I want to take you to a few places around the world today for our segment. Africa, my favorite continent right now, but I've not been to every continent. Senegal, one of the most welcoming countries in the world. I would say the population is about 98% Muslim, and I felt the most welcomed than anywhere else besides maybe Morocco, another country in Africa, a little further north. I was fortunate to receive a scholarship to go to Morocco, and I lived there for a while and was able to visit many different cities, see some incredible places, and I want the same for you. But I want to talk about how we introduce ourselves when we're in these different places around the world. And so I want to start off with Europe, where I have family in France. The capital of France is Paris, which is where they live. And when you introduce yourself in Paris, you kiss on the cheek if you're someone your age. Not on the mouth, but you kiss each other on the cheek. Like this. And actually, how many times you kiss depends on where you live in France. Sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 4. And you have to know these things. Because can you imagine? This has happened to me so many times. You're kissing on the cheek, and then you hesitate. Do you do 3? Do you do 4? You have to know how many times you're actually supposed to kiss, because you might actually kiss on the mouth if you don't know these facts before you go. So make sure you research. Obviously, they speak French in France, but it wasn't always like that. Julius Caesar, he was an emperor. You may have heard about him from your history class. He wanted to conquer the world. And so he took his soldiers and they went to all these different places in Europe. And one place was Gaul. And he wanted them to learn Latin, but they couldn't get it. And so combining Gaul with Latin actually became French. And that's why we call it a Romance language, because it came from Rome, which is where Julius Caesar was. Similarly, in a southern country, Spain is also a Romance. Spanish is also a Romance language. Same story. Julius Caesar went there. He wanted them to speak Latin. They did not. They developed their own language, and they speak Spanish, another language that we offer in Kansas City Public Schools. French and Spanish. And in Spain, they introduce themselves very similarly to the French. Adults tend to shake hands. But someone your age, certainly from kindergarten to 12th grade, might kiss each other on the cheek just like they do in France. I've even seen individuals kiss each other on the mouth for the first time that they introduce themselves. And so that may seem shocking to us at first, but you have to understand the culture and recognize that just because it's different does not mean that it's wrong. Another continent is Asia. My daughters were born in Okinawa, Japan, and they have a different way of introducing themselves than kissing one another on the cheek. They bow. You may have heard that before. I loved living in Okinawa, Japan, but it was hard for me at times. I couldn't read what was written on the stores, and so sometimes I found myself entering these places that were not at all like I had expected. And I had experiences that I could never have had in Kansas City or in other countries around the world. Probably my most shocking story. I arrived in Japan, and 3 months later, I was still trying to understand the language and the culture and how you introduce yourself and what that's like. And I remember going to this American store to return some movies because I couldn't speak the language very well at the time, and so I sought out a lot of things to entertain me, and I heard this screaming in the background. I thought, what is going on? And because I didn't speak the language, I couldn't tell very well if I should help, and it was dark, and this woman kept screaming. And so I remember dropping my videos, going to this woman who was being robbed, and this man was trying to take her bag, and we went round and round. And finally, he punched me in the stomach, and I let go, because at the time, I was 3 months pregnant. And so I went into the store, and I said to the owner, Joe, he was this guy from New York, I said, Joe, I explained exactly what happened, and this woman came in after me, and she says, I think that guy just ran upstairs. I said, oh my gosh. And Joe said to his wife, who was Japanese, Kuniko, get your bat! And so Kuniko went to get his bat, and they went up, and he got this guy. We went to the police station. It was the craziest thing ever. I had to answer all these questions, and when they were typing, they would type something and all these characters would come up. It took 4 hours because they were so good about all their questions. Why did I choose those videos and all of that? And so finally that ended, and I went home, and my husband was like, where have you been? And I explained the situation, and he called his boss, and the next thing I know, I'm at the police station, and there's 50 police officers and they said, "Arigatou gozaimasu," and they all bowed to the floor out of respect for me, for what I had done. Wow. And so Japan was incredibly interesting. It is on the continent of Asia. Another country in Asia is China, and that's the fourth language that we offer in Kansas City Public Schools: French, Spanish, Latin, and Chinese. I've been to Hong Kong and Macau, and they speak Cantonese, but on mainland China, they actually have a common language of Mandarin, and that is what we teach here in Kansas City Public Schools: Mandarin Chinese. Another continent is North America. My brother and his family live in Canada, which is a country in North America. It's to the north of the United States. And they have two languages that they speak in Canada: French and English. Their customs are very similar to those here in the United States, and they're actually similar to us in that they're heterogeneous, and that means there are many different cultures, and just like in the United States, which is so wonderful. I love that about the United States and Canada, and that was very different in Japan, is that they're a homogenous culture. So it's the same. China is like that as well. Another family member, my family that speaks Spanish at home, my dad and his wife, who is from Venezuela, and that's why they speak Spanish. Venezuela is a country in South America, you may have heard of. So it's imperative that you learn how to introduce yourself properly. You want to make sure that you're being as respectful as you possibly can, so that if you are in Japan, that you're saying your name, but you're also bowing. If you are in France or any other country that speaks French, usually you would introduce yourself and then you would do la bise. And in Spanish-speaking countries, there's so many. So how do they introduce themselves? Are all the customs the same? Do you introduce yourself in Spain the same way that you introduce yourself in Mexico? These are aspects that you're going to learn when you take a language in Kansas City Public Schools. You learn about the vocabulary and you learn about the customs, the culture. So as I leave you today, I would like to ask you 2 questions and 1 action step. So 2 questions and 1 action step. Or as they would do in France, 2 questions and 1 action step. So the first question: where do you want to travel? Pick a country. Where do you want to go? Which language do you need to learn to be able to visit that country and learn about the customs to introduce yourself properly? And then finally, the action step. How are you going to make that happen? So thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you for all the episodes in world languages. Every week we'll have a different teacher who will talk about what they teach in their class, whether it's in French class, Spanish, Latin, or Chinese. I would like for you to travel the world with your teacher at Kansas City Public Schools. Thank you for traveling with me today. Goodbye.
desire to create lives within each of us. From Grammy-winning producers and musicians, to NBA stars, to Navy admirals and Medal of Honor recipients, to internationally renowned artists and beloved local muralists, Paseo graduates have been creating their own success, their own history, their own legacy since 1926. Now it's your time. Create your future at Paseo Academy of Fine and Performing Arts. Learn more at enrollkc.org/Paseo.
Southeast because of the culture, the band program, and restorative justice.
I love Southeast because of the academics, sports, and students.
I love Southeast because of the people, the energy, and the advanced classes.
It's not a like. I love Southeast because the students here at Southeast are full of potential and they believe in achieving anything. We are Southeast. We stand shoulder to shoulder.
Join the Southeast family. Enroll today.
Hi, this is Miss Lu and this is Chinese for Beginners, and today we're going to talk about 12生肖, which is the Chinese zodiac. Okay, so like usual, we'll do a review about the things we learned last time. So remember last time we learned how to count numbers 1 to 10 in Chinese, and I would like you to take your hand and let's do a review together. Okay, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. Okay, so these are the numbers we learned with hand gesture, and we also learned how to write them. See if you can still remember. This is the letter, the character for 1 2 3 4. Looks like a square or a box for number 4, and then 5, number 5, 6 7 8. So the character for number 8 actually looks very alike the hand gesture, but you just put it upside down. And then 9, and character for number 10, 10. Okay, so those are the numbers and the characters we learned last time. And today, our objective is to name the 12 zodiacs. Okay, we're going to learn how to say the 12 zodiac animals in Chinese. Okay, things you may need, like usual, a notebook and a pencil to take notes. Okay, take about 10 seconds to get ready to learn. Okay, so here is a picture of the 12 Chinese zodiac. Okay, so to begin with, some basic things about Chinese zodiac. They are based on the lunar calendar, and we assign one animal to each year for a 12 years cycle. Okay, so 12 years, 12 zodiac animals. So approximately to the arbitrary period of Jupiter. Okay, that's like the scientific behind it. And the 12 zodiacs are, here, let's look at that picture and find out together. So we have a rat, ox, tiger, rabbit, dragon, snake, horse, goat, monkey, rooster, dog, and pig. Okay, so these are the 12 animals for the zodiac. And how do we say them in Chinese? Let's learn together, and I would like you to take notes of the alphabet of how to say it so you can practice by yourself at home. Okay? 鼠 you don't need to take notes of the character, just take notes of the alphabets. For higher level Chinese students, you may look at the character, recognize the character as a review. So for beginners, you only need to write down the alphabets. Okay, the 拼音 shu, shu, 牛 牛 the tone goes up. 牛 牛 虎 虎 it's the third tone, okay? And then 兔 兔 the tone goes down, it's the fourth tone, okay? 兔 so these four 鼠 牛 虎 兔 okay, four together will be 鼠 牛 虎 兔 your turn. Okay, 鼠 牛 虎 兔 continue. 龙 龙 this is dragon. 蛇 蛇 马 马 羊 羊 the goat. Okay, so these four. 龙 蛇 马 羊 龙 蛇 马 羊 Okay, 龙 蛇 马 羊 continue. 猴 猴 鸡 鸡 狗 狗 and then the last one 猪 猪 this four 猴 鸡 狗 猪 okay, four together 猴 鸡 狗 猪 your turn. Okay, 猴 鸡 狗 猪 so these are the 12, so we'll see line by line after me. Okay, 鼠 牛 虎 兔 龙 蛇 马 羊 猴 鸡 狗 猪 Okay, so these are the 12 zodiac animals, and this year it's the year of the rat. We just started a new cycle of the 12 zodiac animals, the 12 years. Okay, so this year is the year of the rat. 鼠 鼠年 鼠 Okay, and then Chinese zodiac and personalities. Okay, so we believe that people born with different zodiacs, they may express different personalities. Okay, so in the following slides, I'm going to show you some typical personality of each zodiac, and you can see, you can find out which zodiac you are, or you can find out for your friends or family and see if the personality actually match your personality or their personalities. Okay, so here you can see the year of birth here, and this year is the year of the rat, so you can find which year you were born and find if this is your zodiac. Okay, so 鼠 the typical personalities, so they are intelligent, charming, ambitious, but also sometimes timid, stubborn, wordy, and greedy. Okay, does that match your personality? And for 牛 find the year, say if you are new, okay? Hardworking, honest, creative, ambitious, cautious, but sometimes stubborn, narrow-minded, indifferent, and prejudiced. 虎 friendly, brave, competitive, charming, but sometimes irritable and overindulged. 兔 kind-hearted, friendly, intelligent, but sometimes superficial and overly discreet. 龙 powerful, successful, innovative, brave, kind-hearted, but sometimes maybe quick-tempered and overconfident. 蛇 wise, attractive, and full of sympathy, but sometimes maybe lazy, arrogant, and indulging in self-admiration. 马 clever, active, energetic, but sometimes maybe selfish and arrogant. 羊 polite, mild-mannered, shy, imaginative, determined, but sometimes can be pessimistic and unrealistic. 猴 wise, confident, loyal, incentive, but sometimes maybe egotistical, arrogant, and restless. 鸡 beautiful, hardworking, courageous, independent, but sometimes maybe arrogant and persuasive. 狗 so honest, friendly, faithful, loyal, smart, but sometimes maybe cold and terribly stubborn and slippery. And then the last we have 猪. Okay, so the personality for 猪: happy, easygoing, honest, trusting, educated, sincere, but sometimes can be naive and over-reliant. Okay, so does this personality of the zodiacs match your own zodiac personality? Okay, so to conclude, we're going to say the 12 zodiac again. See if you can remember how to say them. Okay, after me. 鼠 牛 虎 兔 鼠牛虎兔 龙 蛇 马 羊 龙蛇马羊 猴 鸡 狗 猪 猴 鸡 狗 猪. Okay, so these are the 12 zodiac animals we learned today, and I would like to give you a homework to do some research. Okay, so you probably find out your zodiac already from the slides with the personality, but if you didn't have a chance to look clearly, you may search about what is your zodiac. Okay, so after you find your own zodiac, you may interested in find out your family members' zodiac or your friends' zodiac. Okay, and maybe the zodiac for some famous people, celebrities you like, you can find out their zodiac. And the fourth question, I would like you to think about their personality or your own personality. Does it match the zodiac personalities? And to do some fun stuff, do some research. Okay, so above is our lesson for today about the 12 zodiacs, and I hope you enjoyed my lesson for today, and it's my pleasure to have you in my class for today, and we'll see you next week in World Languages.
I chose manual because it's challenging and fun, and it can help me with college.
I chose manual because I wanted to get a jump start in my career with culinary arts.
I chose manual to acquire skills I'd use in real life.
I chose manual because I want to be an ER doctor, and being an EMT is my first step.
Kickstart your future today at Manual Career and Technical Center. Manual is open for all 11th and 12th grade students in both Kansas and Missouri. Learn more today at enrollkc.org/manual or call 816-418-5200.
I love Southeast because of the culture, the band program, and restorative justice.
I love Southeast because of the academics, sports, and students.
I love Southeast because of the people, the energy, and the advanced classes.
It's not a like. I love Southeast because the students here at Southeast are full of potential and they believe in achieving anything. We are Southeast.
Southeast.
We stand shoulder to shoulder.
Join the Southeast family. Enroll today.
Hello, my name is Paul Turner, Social Studies Coordinator at Kansas City Public Schools. Welcome to Homeroom. Today, you'll need a pen and paper as we discuss colonizing the New World with European powers. Alright, today we're going to discuss what were the motivations around the Old World immigration to the New World. What were the outcomes of this? And basically, how it affected the world today. So, first thing we got to talk about is the push and the pull factors, right? So, let's discuss this. Some of the pull factors to settle North America include word of mouth of information about the Americas. Basically, they tell people that this is a vast land of great opportunity. Effective work by recruiters. Some countries will send recruiters out and actually recruit people to come over to the New World. Remember, some of these countries are huge populations, right? And some of them are like really small areas. They said this is a vast territory that you can grow your wealth. Basically, you can practice your freedom of religion. And there was safe personal religious beliefs. So, they said in the old world, I got to practice Catholicism. In this new world, I can practice whatever I want. So, that was a great pull factor to this new world. Some of the push factors. Again, you're escaping this religious persecution. You have fear regarding basically your religious freedom at home. And you had anxiety about political change in Europe. During this time frame, you had a huge upheaval of basically monarchs. What was going to happen? What was going to happen basically next week? And you had release from joblessness. Again, you had these huge populations, but you had these areas basically you couldn't have a job, you didn't know how to feed your family. So this offered a huge opportunity. And nothing that we really don't talk about is a sense of adventure, right? That's the sense of adventure. I can make it anywhere in the world if I can make it into this new world. So, Spain was our first country that we're going to talk about. Spain basically wanted to establish tight control over the process of colonizing the Western Hemisphere. These are all Spanish territories, all the way from South America, all the way to basically up to Canada. These are all Spanish possessions. You remember, we talked about it. We talked about Portugal. They wanted to control the old world. Spain said, you know what? We want this new world. So, Spanish basically were conquering and converting the native population in this new world. So we talk about the Aztec, the Maya, the Inca. Basically, they were taking over these territories and converting them over to Catholicism. So here's a picture, basically, what was going on. Some of these native tribes thought these Spanish guys were basically these huge gods when they came over, right? They came over with this, all this metal, with this huge posse of people, right? They brought, cows, they brought pigs, they brought horses. They wanted to trade originally. but sometimes they just brought diseases and basically killed off some of these Native American populations. So, that's how the Spanish did it. As you can see, here's a map of basically these territories. The Spain basically in this area, French in this area, the Dutch up basically in the northeast, English all over the eastern seaboard, right? So, the French and the Dutch used trade alliances and intermarriage with Native American populations basically to acquire furs and products for Europe, right? Again, if you don't know anything about the Dutch, they love trade. They love basically doing anything when it comes to business. While the French, they basically didn't bring their people over. So, the French settled basically Quebec. They established their fort in 1608, overlooking the St. Lawrence River. This is going to play huge going forward in American society. So, this is basically the French territories during this time frame. As you can see, the French basically wanted lucrative fur trade networks around the Huron with these Native American tribes, and citizens, again, from France didn't flock over to the United States. What the French did, they built these marriages, right? So I'm a French guy, I'm a trader. I move over to these French territories. I meet this pretty, Native American woman. We get married. We build an alliance. Plus, I build an alliance with her community. And as all these people converted over to basic Catholicism and basically took the French oath, they actually become French citizens. So when we start moving forward, basically about 1804, you're going to see Native Americans basically in Europe during this time frame. This is where this came from. So, there we go along these waterways. By 1682, Louisiana was founded by Robert La Salle, hoping to stop basically Spanish expansion in the Gulf of Mexico. By the early 1700s, basically the French began establishing forts in the Ohio Valley, basically to stop the spread of the English. The English basically stopped their spread east of the Appalachian Mountains. This is big when we talk about geography going forward. So again, the French citizens basically was one of basically whatever hundreds of English citizens came over. This is basically hundreds of citizens from English that came over. You have Spain and Florida, right? But in the middle part of what we call the United States today, this is all French territory. Not that many French citizens, all Native American tribes. So they built an alliance system with trade, with alliance, by marrying them. So, again, this is where La Salle basically entertained. He actually went to New Orleans. This became basically part of French territory. Alright, so, this is his route. He went all the way up to basically to the tip of Michigan. These are all French forts basically that were created. All of them. Fort Detroit, Fort Augustus, Fort Joseph, Fort Miami. This is all part of the French basically alliance system. Expansion of New France, right? This is all New France territory from 1608 to 1750. This is more than basically the territory of France today. So, we're going to talk about a Dutch. Basically, the Dutch West India Company was established for raiding and trading in the New World. Places like New York actually belong to the Dutch. If you look at basically this area, it looks like a Dutch city, right? This looks very European. This is what basically the island of Manhattan looked like when the Dutch took over, aka New Amsterdam. Oh, there we go. So, let's talk about the Dutch. Henry Hudson explored basically Delaware and New York Bay to include basically areas for the Dutch. Again, they purchased Manhattans for worth trinkets. They gained 22,000 acres, the most valuable land in the world today. The Dutch gave large estates on the Hudson River to people agreeing to settle about 50 people per the territory. So, this is a Dutch area. Whole island of New York, right? That belongs to the Dutch. Again, it becomes the most valuable piece of land in the world. Why is that, you ask? Let's look how this is laid out. The Dutch had to contend with basically the English colonies. They had to deal with Native American tribes. So what did they do? Look at this. Basically, the English could go right into them, right? So what did they do? They erected this huge wall. What do we call that wall today? Wall Street. It becomes a center of trade, right? But it was actually a protection to keep everybody else out. So they basically separated them from their enemies. So Wall Street was created basically as a front to keep their enemies out. The Dutch wanted to be left alone, only to pursue a trade and expansion through monetary gains. That's it. So, let's talk about our friends the English. So, the English wanted to create colonies based on agriculture. A great numbers of settlers acquiring land, right? They wanted to basically create a penal colony for basically their prisoners in the state of Georgia. English were relatively hostile to the Native Americans, like the Spanish, and eventually utilized African slaves. Their initial attempt, basically Roanoke, failed. They tried to use basically, much like the Dutch, they tried to use companies, basically to come over and settle these charter companies. English didn't accept intermarriage or cross-sexual unions with people of Native and African populations. English colonies developed a rigid social and racial hierarchy, widespread belief of white superiority in the region. As you can see, the way that the English started treating the Native Americans set the tone for American society for the next 200 years. Again, they did not intermarry with the natives or African populations in their English colonies. By the 1600s, they actually started setting up laws about marrying outside your race in these English colonies. Now we have this new map that's basically being created. We had the Spanish taking over these territories. This was all French territory. The Dutch and the English territories on the eastern seaboard. These are what we call the 13 colonies of the English. And as we start to develop more context in American society, basically we're going to start seeing more of a racial and structural hierarchy throughout this region. Now let's answer some questions. How did the different countries treat Native American tribes? We discussed that. You remember the French intermarried and built alliances, right? The English decided, you know what? We treated these guys like subhumans. The Spanish, again, through war, they treated them like subhumans, correct? The Dutch, they only wanted to trade with them. They didn't want to interact with them. Why did people immigrate to the New World, right? We talked about religion. We talked about adventure. We talked about getting pushed basically because population. We basically finding a new job, creating your own wealth. Those were the reasons people immigrated to the New World. How is marriage treated differently between these different countries? Again, the French got to intermarry with the different tribes. Spanish actually intermarried with different tribes. Then we talked about the English. They put laws in place, especially in Virginia and Maryland, where these tribes couldn't intermarry. Now, what I want you to do, you should be able to explain how countries colonized the New World. So, on your own, I want you to write how this will create a problem going forward. Just a one paragraph basically discussion and settlements and relationships going forward with these new colonies in the New World. This concludes our lesson for today. Let's have a quick review. We talked about why countries came over. We talked about the treatment of Native American populations. We talked about the treatment of African populations too. We talked about basically ways that these guys protected themselves. We also discussed why they push and pull factors. So this is some great issues that we covered. So this week I want you to continue to improve basically on basically contextualization of history throughout the United States. It's been my pleasure basically having you in class today. My name is Paul Turner, Social Studies Coordinator, KCPS. This is week's Homeroom.
Desire to create lives within each of us. From Grammy-winning producers and musicians, to NBA stars, to Navy admirals and Medal of Honor recipients, to internationally renowned artists, and beloved local muralists, Paseo graduates have been creating their own success, their own history, their own legacy since 1926. Now it's your time. Create your future at Paseo Academy of Fine and Performing Arts. Learn more at enrollkc.org/Paseo.
Southeast because of the culture, the band program, and restorative justice.
I love Southeast because of the academics, sports, and students.
I love Southeast because of the people, the energy, and the advanced classes.
It's not alike. I love Southeast because the students here at Southeast are full of potential and they believe in achieving anything. We are Southeast.
Southeast.
We stand shoulder to shoulder.
Join the Southeast family. Enroll today.